Hi, welcome back to a new video. Originally, I wanted to talk about 9700X delidding and overclocking today, but there were some changes during the week. For example, release of the new microcode update from Intel, and there were like 3 different things I want to talk about. First topic to talk about is indeed Ryzen 9000 delidding. There was this image floating around in the previous days showing either a 9600X or 9700X CPU that was damaged. So you can see the removed IHS and you can see that the I/O die was partially broken, ripped off from the PCB. Then I tried to do some research because I could see our delidder in the image and I was like, that is quite odd. Then I found some news articles, for example, from Overclock 3D, PC Games Hardware, or like Tom's Hardware. And the information there was quite interesting. So one article claimed the damage happened because the delidder was not heated enough. Another article claimed that it was damaged because AMD changed something about the indium solder and it's now harder than before. And I was like, okay, that all sounds a little bit strange. Then I checked to find the source of the image and I found it at Bilibili, which is basically the Chinese YouTube. There is a YouTuber who's called Tony Yu and he is doing a lot of reviews, so he should be experienced with hardware, but still he managed to break his Ryzen 9000. So I checked the video file and there you could see that he's putting the AMD CPU inside the delidder, then moves the slider once, takes out the CPU out of the delidder, grabs a thermal paste spatula and starts jamming this one in from the side, applying a lot of pressure on the IHS and then eventually breaks the die. And that's quite obvious. I mean, that would happen to any Intel CPU as well. If you would delid it like this, hammering a thermal paste spatula in the side and then be surprised why the CPU is broken. I'm not sure if you just didn't read the manual. I mean, I showed multiple videos of how it's done, that you just put the CPU in and move the slider back and forth until metal fatigue releases the IHS, loses the indium solder. There is also no heating required. I'm not sure where one of the news media got it from. There was never a situation where you had to heat up the delidder. So to Tony, maybe RTFM next time, and to the media, maybe do a little bit better research next time, because it took literally 5 minutes to check where the image comes from and to see in the video how the CPU was damaged. And it was certainly not due to the delidder itself or that Ryzen 9000 is different, because I checked that already 2 months ago. Obviously, because on July 31st, we released a news article on the Thermogrisy website showing that these products, and not only the delidder, but also the IHS and also the water cooler, all of those are compatible to Ryzen 9000. And obviously, I can only make that statement after delidding a CPU successfully. Otherwise, I would warn everybody to not delid the CPU. And yeah, I can tell you it's the same. There's no difference. There are tiny differences on the CPU, but nothing that changes the delidder or any kind of those processes. So yeah, if you damage your CPU, you were maybe just too lazy or you maybe didn't read correctly. But yeah, delidding Ryzen 9000 in general is fine. This video is powered by Seasonic's Prime TX 1600W Premium PSU. With a peak efficiency of 94% at 50% load, this PSU is 80+ titanium and cybernetics titanium certified. I've been using Seasonic Prime PSUs myself for years in extreme overclocking scenarios and I was never disappointed. All necessary safety features are in place, such as OPP, OVP, OCP and OTP, and will make sure that your system is running as stable and safe as possible. I also find it impressive that Seasonic is so convinced of their own quality that these PSUs come with a warranty of 12 years. That is just impressive. So make sure to check out Seasonic's Prime TX 1600W PSU in the link below. Second topic are the new Intel microcode updates. I'm pretty sure you followed the entire thing, the entire debacle about the Intel CPUs degrading, failing, dying. And now Intel released a statement online saying that there are the new microcode updates available and that there might be small performance penalties in very specific application or games. So I wanted to test that, at least in my games. Obviously, I cannot test every game out there, but I'm pretty sure multiple YouTubers will test multiple different scenarios. So in the end, we should get a good overall picture. I decided to test it with the Apex and Core. I picked the 1402 BIOS from July, and then I picked the BIOS 1503, which is the new one that contains the microcode update 0x129. And all the benchmark results you can see now are the average out of 3 runs as usual. In BIOS, I decided to go with the Intel Extreme profile, which is basically the stock condition of the CPU. You could also select the ASUS OC profile, as you can see here in Cinebench R23. It gives you a slight performance increase, but that's probably not really the stock condition. That's why I just went for Intel Extreme. And as you can see here, at least in R23 for me, I couldn't really find any kind of difference between the two microcodes or between those two BIOS versions. In Valorant, on the other hand, I could see a performance decrease, a small one of about 2.5% in the minimum FPS, or the so-called 1% low. The performance dropped from 680 FPS to 663. And also in Counter-Strike 2, I could observe this kind of performance penalty by about 2% in both 1% low and also the average FPS. In Cyberpunk, nothing changed for me, performance identical. I could see an uplift by 1 FPS, but that's just measurement tolerance. Same goes for Assassin's Creed Mirage in 1080p resolution and max settings, also no difference. And the last one I tested was Remnant 2. Also here, again, no significant change in performance. If you observed the slides in detail, you could also see that there was a slight decrease in power consumption in some scenarios. For example, in Counter-Strike 2, I could also see that prior to the new release update, the CPU was constantly boosting the 4900 KS to 5.9, and now after the update I could sometimes see it drop down to 5.8, which is probably why I could observe this like 2% penalty in performance in Counter-Strike 2. But generally, I wouldn't expect a huge drop in performance, and I mean, most of those scenarios are also more CPU bottlenecked, and if you're running in the GPU limit, you probably won't see any kind of difference at all. So at this point, even if it's still a beta BIOS, I would strongly recommend to already flash it and just observe the download pages. And whenever you see the final release, just update it again to the final version. And once the final BIOS comes out, then just update it to the latest release. The last time we talked about this topic on my channel, I ended the video basically saying that I'm just curious what Intel will do and we will wait what the time brings. Now Intel also issued the statement that they will extend the warranty globally for the 13th and 14th gen from 2 to 5 years, which is definitely a good step. And from a lot of comments that I saw of people being worried that the CPU might still die in like 2 or 3 years, I think that's a good signal. It should give you a little bit more safety for the future. And I hope that's also kind of the end for the entire 13th and 14th gen debacle. It was really, I think, not good for both sides, neither the customer nor Intel. And also for us reviewers, obviously not great, because we showed performance on launch day and then there were multiple updates, changes in between, like power limit changes and now the microcode changes, that if you bought a 14th gen CPU, like a 4900K on release day, you now don't have the same performance and behavior that we showed initially in our initial launch videos, which is definitely something I also don't like, and I hope that it won't happen again for the future. The third and last topic for today is again going to be Intel, but regarding the memory speed and the officially supported memory speed. So for example, if you go to the product website of the 4900K, you can read up to 5600 megatransfers officially supported under warranty. And I personally was always under the impression that this is whenever you run 2 sticks on any kind of recent Intel motherboard. But then on Discord, they told me that this configuration is not about how many sticks you put into the motherboard, it's about the motherboard itself. So they differentiate between having a motherboard with 2 DIMMs, 2 DIMM slots, or 4 DIMM slots. And I was like, can't really believe that, that sounds strange. So I reached out to my Intel contact. He then confirmed this and sent me this spec sheet of 13th and 14th gen as PDF. And on page number 110, I could find this memory table. And here on the left, we can see the CPU generation, for example, 13th and 14th. And in the mid sections, we can find DDR5. And now if we follow this and the 14th gen, we can see 2 configurations, 1 DIMM per channel and 2 DIMM per channel. So 1 DPC and 2 DPC. 1 DPC or 2 DPC means DIMMs per channel. Any kind of recent Intel CPU has 2 memory channels, and then it just depends if you occupy both of them or only one. Basically, 1 DIMM per channel will be a motherboard with 2 memory slots and 2 DIMMs populated. And with 2 DIMMs per channel, you can have a motherboard with 4 slots and populate up to 4 of these slots. To keep it easier, one DPC will be 2 modules and 2 DPC would be 4 modules max. And in here we see one DPC 5600 megatransfers max, as we know it. But if you check here with 2 DPC and 1 stick, only 4400 is guaranteed. And if you have 2 sticks with dual rank, it's only 3600 megatransfers. For example, that would be the case running 196 GB on a 14900K. So to sum it up, the entire thing that Intel communicates is apparently not about how many DIMMs are present, but how many slots your motherboard has, which I find fully confusing. And I mean, in that state, it would be 5600. And if I would run like a Hero motherboard and use the same 2 sticks, it would be like 3600. That is quite odd. I'm still not sure if that's actually true or if there's something weird, something wrong in the Intel documentation. I mean, if it's correct, then Intel should definitely update the product website of like 4900K and all that, because I find it extremely confusing. And also, if you think about it, that at least for me, any kind of motherboard I'm booting, like any C790, C690, no matter what I'm putting on, they all boot stock at 4800. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Why is it booting with 4800 and Intel, like under warranty, is supporting 3600 and 4400 max? That would mean that on any initial boot, I'm already running out of specification, out of warranty. That sounds very confusing, very odd. I asked Intel to clarify it again a second time, and they confirmed it to me again and said, yeah, it's correct. I still don't want to believe it. It's quite obscure. I will keep you updated on that matter if that's really correct, but you can let me know. Personally, I always thought it's just about how many DIMMs are present on your motherboard, how many DIMMs are physically connected to the CPU, but at least according to the document, it seems about the main board, which is quite odd. But if I'm wrong there or I missed something, please let me know. Okay, thanks for tuning in this video. See you next time. Bye bye.